what are some of the challenges that even you have to guard against?
I have the tendency to just jump in, and that experience of jumping in is how you learn and how you unpack and realize the depth and realize the breadth of work you have to do. You need systems, you need processes to scale up what you're doing. You need systems to validate and discover the problem you're trying to solve.
It's context specific.
Yeah.
If you're talking about marketing, you're talking about marketing in the Nigerian environment.
Entrepreneurs are incredible people. They don't need to understand everything. In fact, that's kind of the thing they're out for. You know, in 2016, 2017, things like chatbot technology were really starting to take off. We can now tailor the messaging to every single individual business. Every single business owner has a different set of problems.
Even if they're in the same space, even if they're in the same sector,
Yeah, business is this complex system that has so many moving parts that we need tools that let us speak to every individual, separate, different experience.
Over 70% of micro and small businesses in Nigeria have financial literacy challenge. And so for us, it was to say that how do we address this financial literacy gap?
85% of businesses that fail because of a cash flow shock.
Yeah. What do you say to an enterprise support organization who thinks, oh my God, I'm bringing technology into my business, I don't even have an IT person.
Yeah.
How would you guide an organization that supports entrepreneurs on their AI transition journey? So let's talk about, I think, the things that are common to our work. So young people, young entrepreneurs in particular, and then AI, and maybe just AI under the framing of technology and innovation. But we've been using the term ESO quite a lot. So what's an ESO?
ESO, there's a few different ways to think about it, but I would say entrepreneur support organization or enterprise support organization. When I'm in the States, business support organization, BSO is a right common term. I a lot of times need to unpack that for people in the US audience. But essentially an organization, it's a pretty broad term, a lot of different types of them, but an organization that exists to help business owners, right? There's a lot of different ways to do that.
Yeah. And why that is important is that I always say that I look at ESOs as a mix of two things. They're almost like your teachers, and they're people that also handhold and guide you. So for a lot of people who are running small businesses, who in most cases just jump into the entrepreneurship space because of a passion or a gap that they saw, they usually don't have the knowledge around, financial management, marketing strategy, legal, corporate governance, registering the business. And what ESOs do is, first of all, help them to understand all the different things they need to know that they may not know at the point, on one hand. But then on the other hand, also hand-holding them through translating that knowledge and then applying it to their business. And it's really exciting work. It's really inspiring work, but it's also challenging in some ways. So why did you get into the ESO space?
So I think in terms of day one and day two. Day one, entrepreneurs are incredible people. They don't need to understand everything. In fact, that's kind of the thing they're out for. And so I, kind of being entrepreneurial myself, I have the tendency to just jump in, and that experience of jumping in is how you learn and how you unpack and realize the depth and realize the breadth of work you have to do. And so I think in terms of entrepreneurs being day one people, and they'll jump in without knowing, and ESOs are about helping them on day two. They're about, once they realize you need systems, you need processes to scale up what you're doing, you need systems to validate and discover the problem you're trying to solve. That day two problem, I think, is where ESOs really come to shine. It's what we exist for.
I totally agree with you. I've been at Faith for 10 years. Faith is a 25-year-old organization founded also by an entrepreneur. But I remember when I started, for me, it was almost like, and because you're a small organization, you're working in a lot of businesses, you needed that intersection on being able to manage each of them as individuals, their needs, understand them, know how to channel in support in a way that personalizes that support for them. And that can be really, really tough. It's almost like the admin part of the work that we do. And because a lot of organizations like ours are small, we don't have large technology functions or admin or support services, that can become an impediment to efficiency, to providing support. And then when you then bring in, if you're somebody who's managing grant programs, that you then also have to provide data per grant, that can also be complex. So I really, really appreciate how you've defined it, but also the understanding of how technology can then make organizations like ours focus on what we're set up to do.
Yeah.
Yes. So maybe let me then move into how we started working together.
Yeah, that's great.
So two things sort of happened at the same time. Last year, we were developing a 5-year strategy at Fate Foundation, and our second goal was to see how generative technology can help us reach 5 million people, 5 million small agrarian businesses in particular, and providing support for them with knowledge, with tools, but with generative technology being at the core of that. And then coincidentally, almost around the same time as we finalized the strategy, YBI then set up this member learning exchange program and what the member learning exchange program was, an organization within the YBI network identifies another organization that they can learn something from, and the organization will agree to host them. So we hosted 2 organizations, but then you also agreed to host us. So our head of digital innovation, Oluchi, then came over to you.
That was fun.
To then explore that. And I really want to move and deep dive, with that context, I want to move and deep dive into why the opportunities of artificial intelligence in helping ESOs like ours do the work we do at scale.
Yeah, that's huge. So I think the useful background from the ONOW side on how we even started getting into AI tool development was way back, 2016, 2017, things like chatbot technology were really starting to take off. And so we were building some of our own tools to push content out to business owners around the country in Myanmar. And what we were realizing really quickly is you can only segment so much with the kind of technology that is pre-written, pre-engineered, pre-structured. Come along 2023, GPT, Gemini, Llama, all of these new generative AI technologies that are letting us segment down to the individual person. That is such, for ESOs especially, that is such an amazing opportunity because we can now tailor the messaging to every single individual business. Business is not education.
It's not.
Every single business owner has a different journey.
They do.
Every single business owner has a different set of problems.
Even if they're in the same space, even if they're in the same sector, yes.
Yeah, business is this complex system that has so many moving parts that we need tools that let us speak to every individual, separate, different experience.
So maybe we should even step back a bit.
Let's do it.
In a very simple way. How will you describe, so what's generative technology? What's artificial intelligence? What does that mean? And why should an ESO who probably does not even have any knowledge or really thinks that tech is, a whole different sector, why should they be curious about it?
Yeah, so right now, most of the conversation around AI is about efficiency. It's about how you can use AI in your day-to-day work to generate, say, marketing copy as fast as you can, or do some analysis on a data set as fast as you can. It's all about the individual output being faster and more efficient. But really, the capability of these tools is way beyond an efficiency conversation. It's a lot more about starting to build out a layer of application of these models into problems that exist that we've never been able to solve before. So even take that problem we just talked about, where an individual business journey is vastly different from every other individual business journey. In the past, that would take a person weeks of study of one business and one business experience inside of a much bigger ecosystem. And now we can do that in moments, which means we can solve different problems than we've ever tried to solve before.
Yes.
So yeah, content delivery, absolutely. But also, let's solve different problems than we've ever tried to solve before.
So in terms of terminologies, how do we understand it? Because sometimes these terminologies that get thrown around and it can be very confusing. So what's is AI different from generative technology? Is it a part of it?
Sure,
Yeah.
AI is a big term.
Okay.
There's a lot of different AIs,
Okay.
a lot of different types of AI. The one you're hearing most about right now, and especially in generative technology, is large language models.
Okay. So what's a large language model?
A large language model is essentially, let me also say real quickly, this is why probably we should be having this conversation. We are not engineers.
We're not.
We're not.
I definitely am not. You're probably more of one than
I ran
I
a
am.
couple of tech companies, but I am not an engineer. So you're getting the decision maker perspective, which is good, I think, for this audience. A large language model is essentially a computer that's been trained on trillions of pieces of data. It's studied all the text on the internet. It's learned the patterns between words, between chunks of language. And so when you use a generative technology like GPT, when you go and you type in a prompt on GPT, what it's doing is predicting the most likely set of words to follow that prompt. So it goes out and literally averages the internet in relation to the prompt that you just shared. It's a prediction engine.
Fantastic.
It's predicting what's the most likely next word that makes sense. It's incredibly good at it.
So why is that important? And I want us to even have a use case, for example. I like the example you gave initially because you're talking about how entrepreneurial journeys are personalized. So you can have two entrepreneurs, for instance, who are baking cakes, for instance. Entrepreneur A, entrepreneur B, in the same line of cake business, they make cakes, sell birthday cakes, all the other specialty cakes. But the entrepreneurial journeys are different because they're different individuals. They have different knowledge levels. They have different behavioral competences and so many things. They may even be set up to serve similar but different markets. So my question will be in two parts. What's that context that AI presents in helping organizations like ours better help in that personalized journey?
Yeah.
And particularly because I always talk about entrepreneurship being a heartfelt thing. It's a thing of passion, interest.
Yeah.
And so I feel in some ways that we're almost like psychologists.
Yeah.
Because more often than not, you're sitting with businesses who are solving real world issues, who most often than not, because of organizations like ours, are within very challenging contexts and scenarios. Sometimes they're also slightly disadvantaged, maybe because they're young people who people don't think should be running a business because they're not experienced enough, or women who may be disadvantaged. And so they're coming with you with this business idea, with all these problems and solutions. And the interactions you have with them are repeated interactions. And so there's that expectation that if entrepreneur A comes to you today and then comes to you again tomorrow, and then 2 weeks after, you as the ESO providing training, mentoring, advisory support needs to be able to understand all of that. But entrepreneur B expects the same, C expects the same, D expects the same. So how is this new technology space helping with that? We'll still talk about the challenges, but just to deep dive into it.
I'll think about it in two ways, because I think something you said just now, that there's passion in the experience of an entrepreneur. A lot of times we think in terms, we've been trained to think like computers of the past. We need an input, we need to do work with the input, we need an output. And what that really does is it strips out the humanity, because our inputs are really messy and the outputs are infinite in possibility. But a computer has been trained to take a predictable set of inputs, do something with it, and give you a predictable type of output. It's a factory. Humans aren't factories. We're creative. So I think right now I'm thinking in terms of, if I want to collect a set of understanding about my entrepreneur, what do? I give them a survey. I give them a form. I might do it in Google. A form is a computer tool. It's not a human tool. So if you give someone a survey, you're saying, I want one very predictable piece of data from you. I don't want the other stuff. I only want that predictable piece of data. And that's limiting to the entrepreneur. I don't want one piece of data about the entrepreneur. I want them to be able to free form share with me about the thing they're thinking about. and challenged by, or working on, or excited by. So when we turn entrepreneurs into forms, we strip out the passion.
Yeah, and individuality.
Yeah, and individuality. And so one amazing opportunity is, instead of surveys that are hyper-structured like computers, we should catch more unstructured, free-form text and audio and video of our entrepreneurs talking about the things they care about. Now, it's up to us to parse that unstructured text and get the stuff that we need to make good decisions. But if we bind ourselves from the beginning, limit ourselves from the beginning, we miss so much potential insight, goodness, quality, storytelling in that first step.
Okay.
I want ESOs to do less surveys. I want us to just do more interviews.
Even ESOs want to do less surveys, because what's even, and we've had these conversations come up at least 2 of the sessions that I've been at GEC. Because why do ESOs do surveys? First of all is impact data, monitoring and email data. So you're trying to understand, in fact, from the point that the person is coming in, you want to get information about themselves, their business, their demographics, their idea, if they've already started a business, their revenue levels, jobs, and everything. And then usually you then have these different surveys, mid, end program, post program with it. Now, depending on the structure of the programming that you then do, sometimes you then collect additional surveys to then test different things.
Yeah.
And it's onerous both for the ESO and for the entrepreneurs. Depending again on if you're running a program that has specific funding or grant requirement, that's then another level too. And sometimes you then will be running surveys, multiple surveys on the same target group. And so I definitely agree that that's a need area that needs to be resolved. The second thing that has also come up, and this came up during sort of our conversations around what's the value of this service to the entrepreneurs? Because more often than not, it seems one way that, okay, it's insights for the ESOs or the partners and everything. But you're getting this entrepreneur who really does not have time, who has to sit down and fill, 30 minutes to 1 hour survey sometimes. But those insights don't always come back to the entrepreneur. And if they do, it doesn't come back in a way that's useful for them. And I guess that's the point that you're trying to make.
Yeah, I think I run a venture. I'm a founder. I've been through acceleration programs. My last program ended 5 years ago, and I'm still getting requests to fill out data, still getting requests to fill out surveys. And I don't see the return from that. It's time. It's a lot of time.
It is. As an ESO, I will say, as one who runs incubation and accelerator programs, sometimes it's a lot of times when we send post surveys that additional opportunities have come up.
Yeah.
And then we want to then streamline those who, maybe because of their growth traction or there's certain things around their business that's there. But that's the point that you're trying to make, that how do we get that data source that always points back to it, and that you don't then need to be running multiple surveys.
That's exactly right. I think if I were filling out a survey that really was a short phone call with someone that I know and trust, and I just am talking to them about what's going on in the business, that's a lot easier survey to do than the hyper-focused, sometimes stilted kind of multiple pages of data that I have to type in. They're usually badly designed. They're not designed for humans. They're designed for computers.
So what's the solution you then have for this problem?
Yeah, so increasingly, I think we're trying to build tools that add value on a day-to-day basis for entrepreneurs that give us the data we need as ESOs, data around their financials and their revenues and the size of their business and the number of employees, but done in the context of giving them guidance on how to run the business better and giving them opportunities to access finance to grow the business, or giving them even business opportunities, sales opportunities with others in our network. So if I give them a tool, which is what we're building, this financial management software, if I give them a tool where they can free form, unstructured input conversation about their business, I can build a profile about them that has the data that I need to report, but also can leverage the unstructured nature of their submission into guidance, into connection, into introduction.
Yeah.
So if I give them value with, this is our hypothesis, okay?
Yes.
We're early. But if I give them value, they're more likely to use it. And that value is why they keep coming back. And now I have not like a once a quarter or once a year survey. I have a daily survey. I have a daily input of data that's valuable to me. And I may not know exactly how valuable until I see it.
Okay.
But that's the point. You can explore it.
And I'm happy that we're now moving into the work that we're doing together. But before we go into that, there's something I don't want to forget. You were talking about large language models. And I know that, for instance, where we come from, we've been doing this work for 25 years. We've done curriculum development. We have content. And our curriculum, our work, our books, our resources, we have a whole platform called msmehub.org, which we're significantly expanding to have over 1,000 courses, tools, and everything. But part of our value proposition, particularly if you're a small and growing business in Nigeria or in the region, is that it is context specific.
Yeah.
If you're talking about marketing, you're talking about marketing in the Nigerian environment.
Yeah.
I always use the example of when you're telling somebody that, oh, you're recruiting new team members, you need to do a background check. And if I read what was available to do background check in, I don't know, in America, in the US or Canada or elsewhere, it definitely would not apply to me.
The same, yeah.
And so when we build content on employee sourcing, talent sourcing, and management, it's developing those guidelines and guidance within the context and everything. So why is it important to contextualize language models?
Yeah.
Particularly in environments like ours, where a lot of that data and information is not mainstream.
Yeah, I think this is related to the question of why not just use GPT for everything,
or any of the
Chat
others.
GPT or any of the others. Yeah, those models are trained on the world of internet. And the world of internet is highly biased toward Northwestern European languages. The internet is built on mostly English. And most of the digitized information out there is coming from North America. It's coming from Europe. It's coming, maybe some from China, but most of those models are not built on Chinese analysis, Chinese language. So what that means is if you're an entrepreneur in Lagos, and you jump on to ChatGPT and ask what to do, you will get an answer. ChatGPT is built to answer you, but
the answer you get,
it's trained on a very different context. I love the point you're making there. So what we've actually built is a tool where we can take the enormous amounts of content that is hyper localized to your context, and you can ring fence those models in the right way to tailor their responses to only someone in Lagos who is running a fishery business on the edge of the city and who has 2 employees or 4 employees or has a certain amount of revenue. It's not only contextualized to Lagos. It's contextualized all the way down in a dynamic way to that individual user. Whereas most of our curriculum is not built for individual users.
It's not. And even speaking of that, why this project we're working on is very important for us is that it builds on 2 things. It builds on financial literacy, and then it also builds on access to capital. For us, financial literacy, if you ask us, like over the years, what's that one knowledge area that consistently continues to be a gap? It's financial literacy and management. Because on the most part, for any other things, finding ideas, marketing, managing people to some extent, so many things you can sort of help. But I always use the term, I don't know if I've used it before, I always say people have a math PTSD from the education system.
Oh, yeah.
And then they translate that numeracy into looking at numbers. And the one thing a lot of entrepreneurs that I've met don't know about their business is financial literacy. In fact, years ago, we did a study with ACCA Nigeria, and over 70% of micro and small businesses in Nigeria had financial literacy challenge. It was limited financial literacy challenge.
Yeah.
And so for us, it was to say that how do we address this financial literacy gap? On the one hand, in a personalized way, on the other hand, but also then moving them along the path where when they then get to the point of seeking capital, even if it's capital from family and friends or from their savings and the like, they know, what do I need?
Yeah.
What do I need to be able to run my business? If I'm going to get extra financing, before even looking at where, what is the kind of financing I need?
Yeah.
If it's debt financing, how do I know that I can pay this back, or it's the right type of capital structure for my business? And then on and on to then when you're then talking about investment readiness, growth capital, and the like. And our project sorts of helps to do that. So I want you to speak a bit more on that, because you were in a panel session. Was it yesterday?
Yeah,
Today?
it was yesterday.
It feels like a long week.
It's been a fun week.
So you're on a panel session that spoke about de-risking young people and being able to help them access capital better. And so can you please share a bit around how the tools you're building and the work that we're doing together is helping to solve these issues?
Absolutely. So throw the stat at you. We know all the stats on how often businesses fail. 85% of businesses that fail because of a cash flow shock.
Yeah.
That's a money management
thing,
right? Cash is everything. Liquidity is everything. So once you start to realize that most of our entrepreneurs are running off of how they feel, they're just running off of their gut. They're not running off of numbers. They're not running off of analysis.
Emotional.
It is like, I know this has worked. I'm going to keep doing it. Maybe I should change it, just based on what they feel. And entrepreneurs, to be fair, have amazing gut.
Yes.
Amazing intuition.
Yes.
That's why they're powerful.
Yeah.
But if we can help them understand their financial flows and how to think about finance and how to think about money management, they will navigate more of those challenges more effectively. So the tools we're trying to build are about preparing them to think in those terms, preparing them for the cliff that's coming, so that they're ready with the right kind of capital, because you don't want a long-term capital if you just need to get through a week. You don't necessarily need a giant loan if you're not yet earning revenues to service that loan. That's a debt spiral that gets you in big trouble if you borrow to pay. So it is about understanding which capital matters for you right now. And if you have to read through 100 pages of curriculum to figure out which capital matters for you, I have news for you. You're not going to do it. You're going to hit the cliff. You're going to fall off the cliff before you read through everything.
Let me even tell you something. The course area that we've developed the most tools and templates for is financial management. I can't tell you how many templates we have on budgeting, on inventory management, on financial projections, cash flow management, all of those things. And sometimes it can even be more confusing, and particularly for somebody who is happy with, let me just get a regular notebook and just put in, out, and then sort of.
Yeah. And that's exactly what, in Nigeria, it's 97% of businesses are writing or keeping it in their head, that they're not using digital tools
small businesses
to capture and analyze those small businesses. So I think what we're really trying to do is say, most of these tools, templates, curriculum in the world, they assume entrepreneurs can think like accountants. And they on day one, they were amazing entrepreneurs. On day two, we told them, now you also have to be an accountant. And that is not real today. That's not true today. This is some of what we mean about the application layer of AI. We no longer have to be accountants. We should hire accountants at a certain stage. We should, if we can, graduate up to understand how accountants think. That's useful. But we don't have to have that to manage our money. There are now tools available, and some of those that we're building with you at Fate, that are now saying, you're an entrepreneur, be an entrepreneur. Just talk about your business. The accounting side, for a time, we can help cover that for you.
Great.
If you just unstructured, share your perspective on the business.
Yeah. And so can you sort of give an example of what the journey for what we're working on, what the journey of a small business entrepreneur who then uses this tool, what's that journey like for them?
Yeah, so Adenike and I are negotiating this right now, right? We've been doing some piloting, or we're working through what this looks like. This is live we're playing with here. But in my mind, some of the key question around investability is, we talked about this yesterday. For investors, the way you know someone is investable is if they've been invested in before. So we as ESOs have to take that first step. So when you come to our tool, the very first thing that's going to happen is we're going to trust you with a little bit of money. We're going to see if you can manage it and pay it back. And that becomes a really valuable data point. And the way you lever up to more money is you start tracking your finances. You start talking about your business. You start chatting about what's going on in your company. I'm not talking about necessarily transaction by transaction. I'm not asking you to fill out a balance sheet or P&L. I'm asking you to come in and say, here's how much money I have in the bank. Here's what happened to it today. And doing that action of thinking about your money is a data point about your investability and about your ability to manage credit, to service your debt. And so as you chat, you lever up to the next level of either access to finance or the next level up of additional insight and higher value information on your business. So as you contribute, the model gets smarter. As you contribute and talk about your business, the model learns more about you. So the responses are more and more tailored to help you make better decisions on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Simply chat. I'd say it's 3 steps. Short loan, very small loan.
Yes.
Chat, trust.
Yes.
You do those things, you build a trust profile. That's really what all this is about.
And the one thing I'll also add is accessibility, because one of the things for us is that we're using platforms that entrepreneurs will normally use. So in our case, for instance, is WhatsApp.
Yeah, absolutely.
WhatsApp is a tool of communication. It requires low data bandwidth, also lower costs. A lot of entrepreneurs probably will have WhatsApp for business, but they use it they use it for family conversations, personal conversations,
right,
business conversations, and and we're saying, use a platform that they already engage, they already use, that then now adds additional value in terms of their business growth. So what do you say to an entrepreneur support organization who thinks, oh my God, I'm bringing technology into my business. I don't even have an IT person. I'm still trying to struggle with softwares or whatever. This thing seems complex, expensive. Would require talent that I definitely cannot hire. How would you guide an organization that supports entrepreneurs on their AI transition journey, or let's even put digital innovation transition journey?
So, I ran an ESO for 12 years. I don't expect most are like us. We hired engineers. We built our technology. We launched a couple companies focused on that. Most ESOs don't do that. I get that. That makes sense. We've realized we have to build tools that are turnkey, that are super simple, that don't require you to tear down and rebuild all of your systems. So, in fact, a lot of this tool that we're pushing out with Fate it's a tool for the business owner, and there's not a heavy internal management kind of platform to it. It is designed to be user-friendly. It's designed, essentially, the ESO's job is to share it. It might be a QR code. It might be a link. It might be a WhatsApp number that you share out. It's simply share it and then talk about it. Because what really happens here is it gives the business owner more perspective on their own business. So when you bring in your really valuable mentorship or coaching services, you don't have to come with everything to talk about. They're coming with more context and more perspective. And so it actually makes that one-on-one mentorship conversation even more rich. Now, you can go really deep. You can go down the rabbit hole. You can say, let's build a whole management structure and platform for the ESO. Some ESOs want that. We can do that. But really, where we have to start is a user-friendly tool for the business owner that they can easily access, usually through WhatsApp first.
Fantastic. So I want us to round up this conversation by talking about sort of like the downsides. So we're talking about data, content, information. Can we speak a bit about ethics, data governance? What are some of the challenges that even you have to guard against, and ESOs also have to make sure that they're protecting against? Because again, we want to support this special group of people who are economic powerhouses nationally and globally, but we also don't want to take that information to their disadvantage or use it actually for things that should not be used. So how are you thinking about data ethics, data governance, data privacy, and so many other things.
Yeah. So a big piece of, let me say first off, for everyone who's listening, even if you're not an ESO, you might feel like these tools are free. I can just use them anytime I want. If you do that, you should realize if anything is free, you are the product, right? If you don't pay anything for it, you are the product. So these tools are trained on your data. Every time you send a prompt into one of these tools, that's your information that's going into their systems. That's why I'm always like, don't put your financials in. Don't put your personal details in unless you pay for these services. So if you do use those kinds of services, pay for them. That adds a layer of privacy by being willing to pay. $20 a month, you can do incredible things with it, but you also now have this privacy, a little bit more of a privacy shield.
$20 a month can be very expensive for some.
Absolutely. That's real. And so I think that's why our kinds of tools that we're talking about are so important, because when you use a tool like the one we're building, those features are built into it. We're using models that are not being trained on your information. That's number one. We're using models in a way where if you submit your financials, which is what we're building around, that financial data is not going anywhere else.
It's not.
It's being anonymized. It's being aggregated where it needs to be. It's not being used to train OpenAI's next.
And a lot of the content we also already have existing from all the stuff that we've done over the years in terms of training for that.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, that's number one. Number two is we have a responsibility to inform our business owners, our entrepreneurs, about the kinds of privacy that they have a right to. So, there's always a checkbox at the beginning that says you agree to this privacy policy. But we have a larger ethical responsibility to, we don't have to ask them just read this, but we should do.
Most people don't read.
No, we don't. We need to do a better job of spending a little bit of time in a mentorship conversation, in a coaching conversation, somehow from a trusted voice. This is what you're doing, and this is how you're protected, and also this is how you're not protected. So I'm not going to go so far as to say we'll never use that data, because that's not the way this can work. In general, data is really valuable, but I think flipping the conversation on its head and saying to entrepreneurs, your data is so valuable, you should sell it. You should sell your data. We need to move the conversation away from you just give it to get. We should move the conversations towards you need to sell it, because they are incredible value as businesses, and we need to build mechanisms, and that's a bigger and longer conversation. But when you talk about ethics, like our industry needs to move that way. In a lot of ways, ESOs are the gatekeeper.
They are, and they should be. And the responsibility is also them as a middleman for that.
Yeah,
great.
That's right.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Let me say one more thing, okay?
Please do.
I'm going to plug ONOW.ai is our company. ONOW.ai is where you can take a look at what we're doing. I just want you to know that website, ONOW.ai, fully built with vibe coding tools, large language models. It took minutes, okay? Our business owners should be able to use these tools. I'm not here talking about ChatGPT. There are a few others, Lovable and Bolt, and there's a lot of these. You can build incredible landing pages for your companies using these tools. Again, $20 a month, or in some cases less. You can build awesome websites. You can build apps. You can build cool stuff that's really powerful in minutes using these new tools. That, like, we as ESOs use AI, but also we need our business owners to also start adopting some of these tools.
Fantastic.
So
let's
push that out there.
Thank you very much. So I'm so excited to speak with you. Thank you for sharing all of that with me. Matt, it was great to have this impromptu chat.
Yeah.
And my name is Adenike Adeyemi of Faith Foundation, and our website is faithfoundation.org. Thank you, and looking forward to your questions and feedback on our podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm Matt Wallace. I run ONOW Ascent. It's been so fun to sit here.
It's been great.
Thanks, Adenike. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.